Why an ambulance? I asked. Wouldn't a private car be less conspicuous? Chi explained. Perhusha Revi's medical resources are managed by a computer system. Using an operating room, anesthesia, or a bed requires a process. With who as an insider, they could hide the surgery under the guise of admitting a patient. At this point, the case was clear, with one lingering question. Why did Toon post the story online and mention Hun name? Where did he learn her name? Based on timing, though Toon's surgery was 3 days ago, his intent to sell his kidney was planned half a month earlier, so he could have met H-Young and learned her name, Chi Siang analyzed. I added, so Toon's actions make sense. He deliberately drew attention to expose Hun death. But why not report it directly? Considering he vanished that afternoon after our interview, unable to leave on his own, the answer was clear. Toon was being watched, and my interview accidentally exposed him. They moved him immediately, and it was none other than Mr. Sang. Unfortunately, the hospital cameras didn't capture Toon's departure. With Revi's traffic, the kidnappers easily slipped away. All leads circled back to finding Toon. The city's police were mobilized, but Mr. Sang and Toon remained untraceable. Chi Siang said, given the situation, Toon's safety was at risk. He could be the next victim. Mai blamed herself. If I hadn't worked on this story, would Toon have stayed safe? He only sold his kidney. Sang might have let him go after a few days. I patted her shoulder. This was Toon's choice. He could have waited until he was safe to report to the police and still expose Sang. Why spread the story while under surveillance? Why? Mai asked, surprised. Maybe he wanted the police to track him to catch Sang, Mai frowned. But Chi Siang and I don't understand, what clue did Toon leave? That evening, Chi Siang found us, eyes weary. We traced Toon's hometown to CNN Thun. Local police confirmed he hasn't been there for a week. Sang and Toon have vanished. Any ideas on clues? I shook my head. I'd only met Toon for an hour and noticed nothing unusual. Seeing our dejection, Mai timidly raised her hand. Mr. Hung, Mr. Chi Siang, I have an idea. We nodded, and she continued. Since Mr. Hung shared his theory, I've been thinking. I remember when we left the hospital, I saw Toon coming from the morgue's direction, right after our interview and before Sang took him. Why would anyone go there? Could he have left a clue? Chi Siang looked at me in surprise and I nodded. It happened, but I thought he got lost since he was unfamiliar with the hospital. Chi Siang stood abruptly, calling the police at the hospital to check the morgue. Minutes later, an excited voice came through. A phone. Toon's phone. Toon had hidden his phone in the morgue. Brilliant. Sang, familiar with morgues from organ trafficking, overlooked it, keeping the phone safe. In the phone, police found a recording, some secretly taken photos, and notes. Toon and H-Young were tested for compatibility the same day. He grew suspicious. This naive girl didn't seem like a willing organ seller. He secretly kept Hun test data as evidence. Days later, at Ray Toon saw a heart labeled with data matching Hun. He knew she'd been killed. But under surveillance, he couldn't contact the police, and his messages were monitored. The online post led to Sang's interrogation, but Toon managed to deflect suspicion. The notes ended due to urgency. The evidence was enough to bring Sang to court, but Toon and Sang's whereabouts remained unknown. Based on this, Toon was cautious and wouldn't risk his life without a plan, Chi Siang said. He believed he'd left enough clues. Chi Siang examined the phone, checking photos and messages. When he saw a fitness app, his eyes lit up. This app links to a wristband with GPS. Sang, less educated, might not have noticed, and it's still on Toon's wrist. The police traced the wristband to an abandoned industrial area in Long An. Chi Siang led a team out immediately. He later recounted what happened. That night, the criminal investigation team, with Long An police, arrived at the industrial area and found Sang and 2 accomplices in an abandoned warehouse. When discovered, Sang, furious at being exposed, had contacted a buyer to deal with Toon the same way as H-Young. Previously, he targeted people like H-Young, mentally disabled, less likely to draw attention. With Tuấn, he usually dealt only with willing sellers. Now exposed, Sang turned vicious. As he was about to act, Chi Xiang ordered the arrest. The operation succeeded, and Sang was apprehended, confessing to all crimes. Tuấn, mistreated with a lightly infected wound, recovered after treatment and was discharged. "You're a hero," I said, giving Tuấn a thumbs up at the hospital gate when he was discharged. "Weren't you scared?" Tuấn smiled shyly. "I was terrified. But wasn't that girl's life worth something?" During the test, she just smiled innocently and called me brother. If I did nothing, I'd never sleep soundly again. I just hope to live with no regrets. Mai's eyes sparkled with admiration. "If you had another chance, would you do it again?" Tuấn shook his head. "No. Why not?" Mai asked, surprised. "Because I only have one kidney left." Tuấn laughed, waving his new phone, and walked away. Oh, since Sang was arrested, Tuấn didn't get paid for his kidney. His new phone was bought with a police reward. Back at the newsroom, I felt a mix of emotions. A simple article had turned into a thrilling saga. I guided Mai to write the story, published in Urban Mysteries a few days later. But Saigon's residents seemed to prefer the online rumor, which spread uncontrollably. Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in. Please subscribe to our channel to catch more fascinating stories.